Only teasing.
Hey, mics are hot.
Mics are hot. Please continue teasing. Just kidding. Okay, everyone, it is 8:35, Tuesday, April 16th. This is your regularly scheduled Board of County Commissioners meeting. My apologies for the late start. A lot of exciting stuff to try to figure out. So the first thing on every agenda is, oh, and then just so you know, you might observe on the camera or if you're in the room, Sean Wood is not present. We are calling this absence excused and justified. And so I am the temporary chair, so I'll be chairing this meeting. First thing on the agenda is public comment. Is anyone here for public comment? Okay, and if you're online, please come up to the stand, state your name, roughly where you live, and you'll have 3 minutes to talk. And then just really briefly first, if you are online, you'll need to raise your hand. If you're on Facebook, you need to get over to Zoom. That link is on our agenda.
My name is Alex Ginsberg. I live at 899 Chinook Road. I've got a short time here, so Peter, it's good to see you again. Actually came to the last meeting, didn't know how it worked. I found out that I could submit documents, but I decided not to give anybody homework at tax time. So if you didn't get it done yesterday, may October 15th be with you. I built my home here starting in 2011 from the ground up. I worked with Lynette, Deb Kirkham, Charlotte Hampson, Adam Springer, Frederick Rolandhagen, Greg Markle, Cindy Dickens, and more names, without which I could not have achieved such a great piece of real estate. I moved here sort of cavalier, thinking that with a little bit of construction experience, I could successfully build a home, and it was cavalier on my part, and they were incredibly patient. And I have amazing gratitude for the entire planning department and county for helping me build this incredible home, without which I wouldn't be where I am today. And just as I had their help and guidance, I'm here to ask you for advice and guidance regarding a matter with my conversion from short-term rental to home occupation. For 7 years, I ran a licensed Airbnb short-term rental, STR number 001465 at 899 Chinook Road. And I served guests 280 to 300 nights a year. I did all the cleanings myself. And for the last 5 years of that business, I realized that was something that could not be sustainable, and that I needed to figure out a way to turn it into something that could be sustainable. And I spent as many labor hours and almost as much cost building the amenities that make my home occupation, Raspberry Hot Springs, what it is today. A lot of patience from the county, so I apologize if anything, I know there's a lot of what seems to me mischaracterizations swirling about me. I received a non-compliance letter, of which a great portion of it was just completely off. I was 100% in compliance with the state water engineer. There was some idea going around that I was renegade or outside of the rules. And if anybody knows how to comply, it's me. I survived all 40 state and county inspections building my home. Seeking your advice, help and guidance, bringing my dreams here, down to earth in a fair and equitable way again. So it seems after a great deal of discussion between my business and land use advisor from my water rights law firm, Dici and Davis, and Robin Cube was my kind of business and compliance advisor. Spent a great deal of time speaking with Peter, and we had a hard time kind of discerning what exactly was the complaint of my non-compliance. And it seems that after some time, we were able to come down to perhaps it was a traffic issue or a concern over traffic.
That is 3 minutes. I'm happy
Really
to
that fast?
grant you another minute.
Oh, thank you so much. Anyway, so let me just skip ahead then. So I joined the American Planning Association, so I could, and my ID number is 423216, 423216. So we try to understand from your perspective what you guys are dealing with. And I can see that Clear Creek County does not have the most updated details with their home occupation regulations. Your cousins, in the 5th Judicial Branch, you have Lake, Eagle, Summit County, and Clear Creek County. All of them define the number of trips. Lake County defines it as 6 appointments. Summit and Eagle define it as 8 appointments. Other counties in the state, Boulder County, also define it as 8 appointments. Mind you, this is described as 16 trips. So a trip being one way means someone comes for an appointment. That is 16 trips equals 8 appointments. Lake County also describes swimming lessons, home occupation of using a pool as a auxiliary structure, accessory structure is the word. That's just an example of how my business is really not too different from that. The biggest concern, the biggest improvement of this business, the character of the neighborhood, is that overnight Airbnb guests do not light fires. During fire bans, you tell them it's a fire ban, they'll light a fire anyway. You tell them don't use the fire pit, they'll go light a renegade fire. They don't run over my pets at night. I had one cat run over by a drunk Airbnb guest. They don't drink and drive at night. There are no nighttime guests whatsoever. I think this is a huge improvement, and I can show that the traffic is comparable between the two. In fact, it's much less. I'm open 100 less days a year with this home occupation. Now, I was running 10 appointments, and after doing some research, I see that that is outside of the norm. 8 is generally the max. I would like to come in at 5 appointments a day, and then take it from there and try to open a conversation so we can have a continued discussion about, is this working, and see if that's something we can consider. And
Thank you for your public comment.
Thank you.
I know 3 minutes is hard to get a lot of details out. I encourage you to put your comments on our code in writing and assure you that we'll take them seriously.
Okay.
Send us emails, whatever.
Okay, I will do. Thank you. Good.
Okay, county commissioner updates. Ready?
I've been doing a lot, but I hadn't thought about the update. I'm going, or giving one. I'm headed out, still a lot of testimony and stuff going on down at the Capitol, as well as a couple of local issues we're working on. But today I'm going down following this to Floyd Hill for an event. Pete Buttigieg is in town. And I just got that yesterday afternoon. So they've got, they're featuring the Floyd Hill projects. It could be a good time to talk to him about some of the issues we're having surrounding that. And we're having the, also next week is our collaborative effort meeting, and it's going to be a really full agenda. And so for those who can attend and are interested, other commissioners as an example, I'd, heartily recommend certainly auditing that day at least, if you can. We don't have an online version for that, so it may not, it's a 4-hour meeting, so it may be tough. And Jonah Goose is also going to be at that meeting as well in the evening before coming here next week, also on Wednesday evening. So, and that's really all I got. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. I am planning on being at the CE meeting. I'm gonna have to find a place to take a Zoom meeting in the middle, but I'll figure that out. I'll start with the Nagoose, since you mentioned him. Joe Nagoose is coming to town. Is that next Wednesday, April 24th? It is. It is next Wednesday, April 24th at 5:30 at Bojo's for a town hall. He recently secured $1.6 million to help build the 69-seat childcare facility in Idaho Springs in Building 103. Clear Creek County has also made commitments, and so it'll be a little bit of a celebration of that, as well as just an opportunity for members of the public to speak to Congressman Nagoose, ask him what he's been up to. He is number 4 right now. Our congressperson is number 4 in the House. So.
Yeah, I think he's so he's going to close up with the town hall, I think at Bojo's that evening. Isn't that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Bojo's at 5:30.
5:30, right.
So other quick updates. quickly, Senate Bill 33 is up in committee today. That is the short-term rental bill. I'll be going down there to testify in person. It has been turned into a study. This is a policy conversation about what short-term rental operators should pay in terms of taxes, what it means for them to pay their way. Of course, we all agree that people in society should pay their way. And there's a need for a study so that we can be operating on a set of facts. So that's what that bill is turning into. We're going to try to get it out of committee today. The property tax conversation is heating up. Counties appear to be kind of like last year when the big property tax ballot measure came up and counties were not listed among the important services to protect, in spite of everything that we do in our communities and inside municipalities and in unincorporated areas. So we've got a big need to elevate what county services do in the legislature over the next few weeks, in a conversation that will be fairly decisive, well, not decisive, but will have a big impact on our budget. I have asked Maria, I believe Maria's supremely talented in financial analysis. And so I've asked Maria to put together a model that has the parameters that they're tinkering with so that we can really quickly know how different proposals would impact us. So that's just a heads up for you on that. Also, so shifting gears to the Carlson conversation. I've been looking around at like outside our community at what examples there are of like healthy collaborations. And because I think in Clear Creek County, we can learn how to do better in the way we collaborate. And me too, I'm not trying to throw stones. So we've been connected with Lakewood Connects. I've invited the mayor of Idaho Springs and the chair of the school board to just watch one of their collaboration meetings. And then we're gonna have lunch afterwards and think about, well, you know, what we do, how do we model that up here? Around the opportunity to do a good job developing our own vision in Carlson and finding a partner to accomplish that vision. So I'm really excited about that. You'll continue to see things come up related to our effort. And I think the chair of the school board and the mayor of Idaho Springs, I won't speak for them, but I'm hopeful that they're really excited to see how it can go differently this time in terms of the community having an opportunity to build its own vision.
To build its own.
To build its own vision for the use of that space and where.
As opposed to in contrast to, as an example. Well, for anything, to do better, sounds good.
So I just want you to know that I'm asking for that meeting. The other thing, there's another. Nope, that one is actually on the agenda. So I think that's everything from me.
You're a busy guy, and I mean that as a compliment.
Thanks. Next on the agenda is county manager updates. Brian.
I'm gonna get us back. Good morning. I'm gonna get us back on track.
Thank you.
Didn't have much time to put together a list this morning.
That'll help.
Yeah. We are going to pull item number 10 on the agenda, which is the work session to discuss the county employee performance management system. That was a specific request of Sean to be on this agenda, or to be on a agenda. So we just decided to pull that so he can actually be here to be part of that conversation. It is time for one of you to do a jail inspection. That's just a heads up. At some point, one of the three of you needs to take a trip down to the jail. So that's just a reminder of that. And then finally, I am out of the office the rest of this week and attending the Colorado City and County Management Association Conference in Glenwood Springs. So reachable by cell, but
All right.
won't be here in town.
Okay.
That's it.
One other thing that just tipped me about the agenda, and I think George is pretty tight today too. I mentioned that I think he's got a testimony to do or something like that from what I heard. And then I've got that thing with supposed to be down on Floyd Hill by 2 o'clock at the latest and preferably ahead of that. So kind of like, just so as we're going through the meeting today, if we can be thinking about that and try to.
Oh, yeah, like maybe a less long commissioner update, for example.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, I wasn't,
That's good.
I wasn't even, never occurred to me. That was a short update. Okay,
Okay. What is next?
Sheriff.
Sheriff's Office update. Sheriff Matt Harris.
Take as long as you want. Don't worry.
I gave you guys a lengthy update last time, so I'll be a little bit brief this time, a little bit more brief. But good morning, thanks for having me. As we currently stand, we have 57 and a half FTEs on board. We just hired a new patrol sergeant. Sergeant Otsby, he was with Sheridan Police Department, took some time off. I was working for the Jefferson District, and he is our new patrol sergeant, and he started on Monday. We're really excited to have him. It's a lot of experience, a lot of experience on patrol, a lot of experience in supervision, and we're really excited about it. I don't know if I mentioned last time, but we had a patrol deputy who had been here since I think 2017, Sean Skates. And Sean Skates came back to Clear Creek County after going to another police department and realizing that he was missing the culture here and Clear Creek County and just kind of the outdoors. And he is our administrative sergeant, and he has done an excellent job. He's spearheading some of our community outreach events and really taking some of the administrative responsibilities off Captain Marquardt. We also have a new patrol deputy starting next pay period. And he is he was in the academy. And so we're really excited to have him starting next week. So we're going to be, and then we have 2 new patrol deputies that are off FTO that are on their own now. So if all goes well, and then we're going to have 1 patrol deputy who is in detentions right now, coming to the street, who's already sworn, because we're going to get 1 back from post to go to the jail. So if all goes well, by the end of the month, beginning of May, we should be only short 2 FTEs on patrol as far as bodies on patrol. Now, we're still going to be short 1 sergeant. I believe the proper staffing model for patrol is 4 sergeants. So I really would like to get 2 more sergeants on patrol. But we're in really good shape if all goes well by May 1st to have only 2 vacancies on patrol. So I'm really excited about that. And of course, I think that our strategy for recruitment and retention is working. And we put a lot of effort into that. And I know, Megan put a lot of effort into the video, the recruitment video. We had a lot of really good comments about that from other departments, from the community. So kudos to Megan for helping us put that together. Just want to touch on the budget a little bit. We've been doing a really good job of keeping a close eye on all of our costs. One of the things that we wanted to focus on small things and at first, right? And then we look at bigger projects, and fuel is where we started. So in January, we spent $11,316 on fuel. By February, we saved an additional $2,100 on fuel. And that was just by really being conscious of where we're fueling up. Looking at, managing our budget like it's our own. Like, I had that gas station down the road, it's 20 cents cheaper. And so even, so in 1 month, between January and February, we saved $2,100 in fuel. We went up a little bit in March, but I think that's the reason is the fuel costs went up a little bit. And also the reason is we have more folks on duty. And so that's a good sign. We also realized over the course of, I don't know how long, all our deputies were using the same PIN at the Dumont fuel station. There were no internal controls. So for as many years as we can remember, the sheriff's office had 1 PIN, and we go to the pump and we use the PIN. So between the turnover, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that there's fraud, but there certainly is a potential for fraud. And so what we did was go to Road and Bridge and ask for an individual identifying number for each individual employee. And so each individual employee, I think by the end of the month, will have their own individual PIN. So therefore, we have the proper internal controls in place, and then we also are able to list each individual person's fuel costs to make sure that they're aligned. They're aligned. So we're really happy about that. Kudos to the county for getting our purchase cards in use. Right, so we had this other program. Again, not a lot of internal controls in that program at all. Multiple users of one card. That ship has sailed. So with the purchase card program, we're really happy that we have that. We did transition we were starting the transition out of Station 1A. We've completed that transition. And so we just had a bunch of stuff that had been sitting in this building for years. So our guys got their hands dirty, spent hours and hours cleaning out the 1A, and the rental costs there, or the cost to operate, were $7,000 a year. So we're going to save $7,000 over the course of the year just by not having stuff.
You discovered you didn't need any of the stuff.
Most of the stuff we did not need. Yes.
So it's just like my garage.
Yeah, it's, I wouldn't say it was exactly an episode of Hoarders, but but it was going towards that way. So,
I need all that stuff.
Just sell the RV.
we're working on it. We're working on it. One of the other things obviously with the weather up here and the snow and the constant melt, right? The cars get really, really dirty. We spend a lot of money on car washes. It's important because it's our image, right? We want our cars to be clean. And we want, to me, that represents the sheriff's office. But we're spending a lot of money on car washes. And so our special services division has set up essentially a little car wash at one of the locations, one of the stations. And so we're able to likely save some money on car washes by doing it ourselves. But we spend a lot on car washes. I mean, we don't know what that's going to look like, but we do know it's going to save some money. So we also with the transition out of right, there was cost savings with the transition to Jeffco, but there was also some contracts that were still in place. So we ended the HyperReach contract, which was I think roughly $5,000 a year, and a Motorola contract, which was $16,000 a year. So those are additional savings. What we're doing on the budget is we have monthly budget meetings that goes through each individual division and look where we're at with the budget. So we're keeping a really close eye on things. Finance and Maria and her staff keeping us on task, really showing us. Last month we had a really good meeting, showing us where our expenses were, what we're paying, things that we should look at, and we took that to heart and are really looking at some of these other contracts that we have. Lex Pulp project kicked off, is going great. Holly Cluth is essentially our project manager for that. And really, really excited. Probably implementation is going to take about 15 months. We're hoping to get it speed quicker, but we're really happy with the way it's going. We're happy with the product. We're happy with the service of Lex Pol. All our folks are committed to getting our policies and procedures in alignment with our law enforcement best practices. A little bit on community outreach. The Easter egg roll day before Easter, the Friday before Easter was great in Georgetown. We had a lot of kids, a lot of positive feedback. Kudos to the staff for putting that on. We had a couple of deputies come off duty as well, right? Unpaid to come in and participate. So kudos to them for that. Our next Coffee with a Cop will be Monday, the 22nd in Evergreen at the Bagelry. Folks in Evergreen and on that side of the county said, we want to see you all. So we're going to make sure we're doing an event out there. So on Monday, the 22nd at 9 a.m. at the Bagel in Evergreen. At the end of last month, we attended a career fair at Clear Creek High School, and that went well. Transition to patrol. Unfortunately, we had a fatal vehicle accident on April 6th. And a 12-year-old boy from Granby tragically died. And car went over the embankment, rolled into the river. The our deputy and Idaho Springs deputy and the folks on staff did everything that they can to save him. Absolutely heroic effort to save that boy. Unfortunately for the family, he didn't make it, but the amount of effort and care that went into that was remarkable. Was absolutely remarkable. And unfortunately, the outcome is not what we wanted or what we expected. But I know that our folks did everything they can to save him. EMS side and one of our deputies, Emery, and Patrolman Johnson from Idaho Springs PD, and John Gaskins from Georgetown, who went to the scene while off duty and really did their best.
So, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that was all, Randy.
On that particular subject, yeah, if I could speak to that for a second. First of all, I agree and thank you very much for the work that you did. And because of that work, I would say our concern goes out and our regrets to the family, of course, for their loss. But also you guys, because that's not a fun kind of an event to attend, to have to deal with on your end. It's trauma for everybody. I went down and looked at the site real closely afterwards, spent a lot of time down there walking around. And because I talked to my wife about it and told her, and she shook her head and said, you know, I've always thought that with that, when you come up on that intersection, when you're on the on-ramp at the point where they were approaching the intersection, the near blind intersection because of the vegetation with the stop sign, she said she always makes a mental note to think that if she sees somebody running the stop sign and she's coming off at highway speed, don't leave the road to the left to try to avoid the accident. You got to go to the right because you're going to die. You're going to go in the river. And there's no, you can't put guardrails everywhere. But when I went down and looked at that scene and saw how they had simply dipped one wheel off the pavement, and once they were in, they were sucked in. It's done. Once that one wheel dips off the pavement, the front end, just sucked off, and you could see right where the front right then dug into the dirt, and they just catapulted straight down into the river. I think we need to talk to CDOT about a guardrail there. That is an unbelievably treacherous spot because you're coming off a highway at 70 miles an hour, and a lot of people continue that 70 and sometimes 80. They're driving because John, it's a nice straight runoff right there. There's a stop sign up there that begs for a T-bone collision. And so I think cutting down some vegetation up there and also getting a guardrail at that spot would be really, really helpful. To avoid. And I know we waited and you go years and years and years and nothing happens, but when you see one thing like this and go up and look at the scene and how it happened, you go, I can't believe it didn't happen before. Anyway, I just want to throw that out.
Absolutely.
That came up.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for bringing that up. Also on patrol, we've been working with CBI on some mid-level drug arrests, and have had a few arrests in the last few months. Trying to eradicate the drug distribution in our community. And so working with our partners, we're really excited about those relationships. Again, thank you to the county for Maria and Brian for championing the cost savings for the vehicle purchasing. So we're on our way to getting some new vehicles. So appreciate you championing that cause for us. The DA's office has reported that they are getting our reports quicker and they're of much better quality. That is a testament to Lieutenant Straley, who is running our patrol division, and his attention to detail. And we still have a lot of work to do, but we're immediately seeing immediate results. And the judges have also commented on how their report quality and the timeliness is much improved. Well, just a little bit on Back County Rescue. Met with Alpine Rescue a week before last, and this was just some interesting stats that I was unaware of. On average, Alpine Rescue has 130 cases a year in Clear Creek County. It's the top 3 in the state, top 6 in the nation. So for our little county of 10,000 plus people, we're 3rd in the state and 6th in the nation in the rescues. Obviously, a lot of the rescues are are folks that are recreating in our community. But that is a responsibility by statute of the sheriff's office. So without that partnership with Alpine, I don't know how we could do it without Alpine. So kudos to Alpine as well for providing those stats. Detention, we had the jail assessment. And we have a draft report. I'm not ready to present all of the findings yet. One of the things that the team said was that our facility was in the top 5% as far as engagement with inmates. The relationships that we have with inmates, the feedback, the interviews that they had with inmates, as far as the professionalism of our staff, top tier 5%, which is really amazing based upon our shortage in staffing. And that was something that means Captain Lucas and his team are really engaging with the folks down in the facility, treating them respectfully as they should be treated. The same time as we got a letter from an inmate recently, I think it was last week, thanking us for our the way we treated him and welcomed him. I guess he was a first time user of the jail and was really kind of scared, and obviously it is a scary thing. But this inmate took it upon himself to write us a letter, and it was really made us feel good. I made us feel like we're doing the right thing down there. With that said, right, there's some liabilities, and there's a lot of liabilities in the jail, and it's the age, our staffing is not adequate. Whereas as the design, I still have of the belief that it's costing us money by having the jail vacant as it is, and we're going to figure out a way to increase numbers because that is an increase in revenue. And it's not ready really to dive down deep. But the physical design of the facility is the thing that the initial report was concerned with. Staffing was one of the things that they were concerned with as well. I guess, and that's really all I want to highlight right now before I really get a chance to dig down deep into the report. But they did a really comprehensive briefing here for about 3 hours, and but certainly, we're going to have a discussion over time, and what we want the jail to look like and the design of the jail. But certainly, our priorities need to be staffing, and my idea is also, we're at 35% capacity, which is really unacceptable for any county jail. It's a lost revenue opportunity, but I need to balance staffing and safety with that as well. That's all my prepared comments, but
I think one of the most important things to come out of that is that I don't know that we want to enter into it today without preparing for that and planning for it and posting it on the agenda, but I think a work session to discuss focused on the jail, to discuss your recommendations on that, and also the report would be in order. I think that would be time well spent in the near future. And do you agree with that? Think so?
yes, sir.
George?
Yeah,
Agreed?
yeah. I mean, the presentation that the consultants did was really great. I learned a lot. I also noticed that the very positive perception they have of how we treat our inmates. I've noticed over the last couple of years that the way that jail staff talks about inmates has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said this in the setting there, but I want to say it here because I think it's really important for us to observe this stuff publicly. There was a time when the leader of the jail had a picture on his desk of literally his boot on the neck of an inmate.
Mm-hmm.
That person is not here anymore. And I've seen over the last, and what we also know is that there's been a little bit of a leadership vacuum, more than a little bit. Whenever there's a leadership vacuum, you just kind of wonder where the culture is going because you don't know. And I am so proud of the guys in the jail that we're going in the right direction of their own integrity and goodwill. So I just think that's really, really important to point out.
Thank you.
Because we see things go really poorly also when there are those kinds of leadership vacuums.
That picture struck me on my first jail inspection in 2017, as soon as I was sworn in. And I just thought, well, if that's where you start.
Yeah.
Doesn't, it sends you in a direction right off the bat. And I've observed some of the same differences just in hearing how, when we get our reports from your office about how people talk about the inmates, how they refer to them, a little more like human beings, and trying to get, you can't fix everything, but trying to get people to a better place as opposed to warehousing.
It's a testament to Captain Lucas and the culture that he's trying to build down there, the quality of people that he brings in. Um, and that's the way he operates. And that's every once in a while, there's something that we see that we don't like, and we mitigate that immediately. And so, and that's the way you run it. And you bring in good quality people and, good character people. And that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah. Less time spent in court, everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Just a few more things that I want to really highlight from what you said. First off, as employers of first responders, including law enforcement, I think there's a long way to go in us supporting the mental health. We're asking these folks to take on a lot of trauma, right? And I just want you to know that I think this board, to the extent that it's a resources problem that can be documented, we want to make sure that our first responders can heal from their efforts. Very important to me personally. And I also know that it's not, that might not be more important to me than anybody else on this board. So want to emphasize that. We've learned a lot, not just about how important it is, but how to do it well. And I look forward to seeing us do better here.
And if I could, we have a peer support team here, and we have initiated our peer support for a meeting with those who are affected, and that are going to be, meeting to discuss, so they have people to support them. And so it's, we've addressed that proactively.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm always open to change, right? The science is changing rapidly on how to treat people who've experienced trauma. And I look forward to seeing our systems evolve as well. So just really have to highlight, over a period of 5 months, we will have gone from not being able to staff patrol 24 hours a day to being almost fully staffed.
Mhm.
That's a big deal. That's without a huge change in pay. That's just having put behind us some conflict and controversy, and moved into a setting where we're having these kinds of conversations in public about what the shortcomings are, what the data says, what our vision is. And so kudos to you, kudos to those who showed up, and just have to observe that.
I know one other thing, and this is not for the purpose of, we shouldn't be talking about politics and elections in here and stuff like that, but just to achieve certainty and understanding what our path is going forward. I do note, looking at the Secretary of State's site, that there is a candidate for sheriff running in Clear Creek County, and only one as I see it right now. I believe, so you did make the decision to file for sheriff.
So, yeah, I did.
So and the only reason I bring it up is so we have the prospect of potentially your continued operation in this position beyond January.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that is the process, but I am focused on the sheriff's office, the internal operations, and how we move forward. I mean, I know the job is an elected position. There's a lot of politics, but the reality is it doesn't matter. This is a law enforcement job, and it doesn't matter what party you're at in. It doesn't matter. It matters that this community has a functional sheriff's office that is responsible to the safety of the community and building good relationships in the community and being a better stewards of the taxpayer dollar. And that's what we're going to do. And that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm happy that right now there's nobody running, because therefore I could spend all my efforts on, making sure we're heading in the right direction here.
Well, that's the reason I brought it up too, not for the purpose of getting into politics or even to talk about motivation or why or, anything like that. Just the fact that there is certainty going forward as opposed to in a position that otherwise can be rolling over and over and over. And a little bit of consistency and certainty is going to be, I think, a good thing as we're going forward. And so it's good to see the good work. And it's good to see that that good work has some ability to have certainty and consistency for staff and for everyone else rolling forward. So,
I have one other comment that's just motivated by my assumption that a bunch of the public is listening all the time. You mentioned a lot of like, we saved $2,000 here. We saved $4,000 here. Over here, we saved $8,000. People that know that you have an $11 million budget are probably wondering why that's meaningful. And so what I want to share from our side of the house, where we've been really engaged in the same project for don't intend to cast stones, I think a longer time. Those things add up over time, right? This is what you accomplished in the last month. In the next month, you'll find another couple things like that. Along the way, though, we also know that you'll find big ticket items, like our discovery that we could rebid our benefits and save $450,000 a year. So we're definitely looking out for those, and we're going to celebrate the small stuff with you too. And I just wanted to, I hear hope when I hear $2,000 because I know that that's just, there is no silver bullet. And so I'm grateful to every $2,000, $1,000 or, and the big ticket items that you're going to find.
and not to, and I agree with all of that, and not to cast water on that enthusiasm, the fire of that enthusiasm, but you'll probably find some places you need to spend some money too along the way, I'm guessing. So,
Right, so to get up to full staffing is gonna cost us more money, right? So we have vacancy savings and we have, positions that are vacant that you're not paying benefits for. So, but
all the more reason to find every $2,000 saving you can.
And I think, what has changed is the emphasis and the focus on being fiscally responsible. And we continue, like I said, we have that budget meeting every month and we're looking through our receipts. We're looking at what we could do better. We're looking at what contracts should be extended, which contracts should be ended, which ones are costing us too much money. We find a different vendor potentially. But that is part of the discussion from the leadership team.
Okay.
That's all from me. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for,
Thanks. Have a good day. Appreciate it.
you too.
Next on the agenda, communications update with Megan Heiler. I do think it's worth the time to spend time talking about this. It's really important. About the previous item. Megan, I believe you're online because I think they closed the tunnel on you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Yes, the tunnel was closed, so I had to turn around at the tunnel. So I am home now. But yeah, the only real update I have right now is just another reminder that the EMS blood drive is coming up, and that's on April 24th. So that'll be a week from tomorrow. And that's in the room you guys are sitting in right now, in the BOCC meeting room. You can walk in if you want. You might have to wait a little bit longer, but I would recommend making an appointment online. You can do that on Vitalent's website, or I shared the link on all of our social medias, and it's also on our website if you guys are interested. But that blood has the potential to directly impact Clear Creek EMS and residents of Clear Creek County. So you could save your neighbor's life by donating blood on that day. Other than that, I don't really have any updates. So
That was quick.
I talk fast, so
Well, thank you, Megan, for getting us on track here.
no problem.
The next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there anything that we want to remove from the consent?
I read through it and I have nothing to take off, nor even, I think, worthy of for the discussion, but I'm happy to have one if there's one that you'd like to ask questions about.
No. I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Item number 1, consideration of approval of resolution 24-28, approving memorandum of agreement for the sale of real property and the granting of temporary easements, and authorizing the county attorney and county manager to execute all necessary documents to complete the transaction. Number 2, consideration of approval of change order number 02 to the Clear Creek County Sports Shooting Contract with Himmelman Construction Incorporated to allow for well construction to be performed by James Drilling Incorporated, and authorizing the Public Works Division Director to approve the expenditure of contingency funds for additional minor work associated with the completion of the well construction. Number 3, consideration of approval of grant agreement with the Electronic Recording Technology Board. Number 4, consideration of approval of Amendment 1 to Communications Facility License Agreement regarding Bellevue and Public Service Company of Colorado. Number 5, consideration of approval of the submittal of the Colorado Department of Transportation fiscal year 25 capital call for the purchase of 2 replacement transit vehicles, and that the county manager be authorized to enter into any following award agreements related to this application. Number 6, consideration of approval of February 15th Board of County Commissioners meeting minutes. Number 7, consideration of approval of resolution 24-32, appointing member to the Clear Creek County Planning Commission. Number 8, consideration of approval of resolution 24-33, appointing member to the Clear Creek County Open Space Commission.
Right. And I think, number 7, I believe, subject is in the room, and number 8, it would be Mark Cuccinella. So, and then I think Mitchell's number 7, aren't you? Isn't that correct?
I guess so.
Well, just to be, yeah, just to let people know, because those are just, the title always says that, and then you read underneath on the links and see the name of the people that are being appointed, and I think we should let people know that. So thank you for your offer for service to do that. And with that, I would like to, I move we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second discussion. I've got some, but I'd let you go first.
I have none.
Yeah, you pointed out Mitch Tribbett in the room. Thank you for joining. I thought your interview was excellent. Really appreciate your time on the planning commission. Also with Mark Cuccinella, very grateful to his continued service. It's nice to have truth tellers on your commissions, and that's definitely Mark. I do agree with Randy. This is for staff and agenda construction, that when we say appointing member, we should name names on the agenda.
Okay.
With that, any other discussion?
The only other thing I see was on this version that I've got, which probably comes out of the HTML version. You know, I think they're both the same. Let me see here. On one of them, yeah, and neither one of them, it says regular session, and 9 should have fallen under regular session. That's why I sent you that question yesterday. When you look at this written version, you see what you see. If you go online, you'll see something different, just so you know. That's why I called and asked where the agenda, where the consent agenda ended, because it just rolls right. And I know up above it says 1 through 8, but down below you have a heading that says regular session, and 9 is above regular session.
Oh,
In the online version. That's why, so I just wanted to point that out to you. So, but otherwise, no.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Hearing none. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is a work session to discuss one of our favorite topics, childcare in Clear Creek County, with Jessica Tribbett.
There was a PowerPoint.
I've got it for you. I can share
Yeah,
it.
Megan will show it for you.
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Just tell me when to go to the next slide.
Okay. Where can I see the,
It's gonna come up.
It's not up
on
yet.
here.
Okay, great.
So. There it is.
Okay, I've got that one too.
oh, good. Okay.
You all can see this?
Yep.
Yep.
I'm just gonna pull it up on my phone too, so
And by the way, sorry, I haven't gotten back with you about that phone call and conversation that I'm the one that asked for.
Yeah,
So-
no, that's
so it's
fine.
just Busy stuff.
Anytime,
so-
anytime.
I know.
No problem. Thank
And it
you.
was nothing urgent, so.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Jessica Tribbett, and I'm here on behalf of childcare in Clear Creek County. I'm also secretary of a board called Expanding Early Care and Learning in Clear Creek County, which I'll just refer to as EECL from here on out, just for ease. And our mission is to really expand childcare access in Clear Creek County. So we've taken on as a project this summer the hopeful expansion of the current Georgetown Community School program. They have the toddler room program and the pre-K program. So those are the 2 age groups we're looking to expand into the summer months. Next slide, please. So I know you were all wholly aware of this, but just an overview again of the language around the lodging tax and the support of workforce housing and childcare, and then the margin by which it was approved by taxpayers. Next slide, please. And so some considerations I want you to keep in mind as I go through kind of the rest of the data that I'm going to show following this is that the Georgetown Community School is the only full-time program in Clear Creek County that serves 18 months to 3 years old. There are no other support systems for 5 and under currently in Clear Creek County, both during the academic year and summer years. Sorry, that is just repeated myself. So there are pre-K programs at King Murphy and Carlson, and that's for the 5 and ups, but again, nothing for younger than 5. There is toddler time at the rec center, and that did expand to every day for 5 days a week recently. However, because of the move of Carlson to Building 103, the toddler time will not be operational this summer. So then leaving families without that sweet 2 hours a day that they'd been relying on. As you're also probably aware, next summer, the Building 103 should be open in 2025. Ideally, also GCS will have a permanent summer program in place, but currently there is not anything for families this summer. Data shows that our tourist economy booms the most in the summer months, and that's exactly when there is no childcare for 5 and unders. There are camps for 5 and up, as I'm sure you all know as well, but anybody for 5 and under, there's nothing for families in the high income summer months, and that really impacts their income. The GCS toddler room has been at capacity since it opened up, which I think really illustrates the need for such care. And to the tuition for families is $700, which based on some survey data I'll show you in a little bit, is what's really affordable for our families. Next slide, please. This is based off of a survey. It's called the Child Care Needs and Assessment Survey that EECL put out starting in June of 2023. And it's kind of just been open and collecting data that whole time. There's some solid numbers, but also this was just asking families to put in like how the absence of childcare impacts their family. You'll notice that the question itself does not kind of lead the respondent to say work, but the most common issue is that families cannot work. That's, a word cloud that pulls out the most frequent words. It really impacts our local families' ability to earn a living. Next slide, please. So based on 25 respondents, the greatest childcare needs are year round and also the summer months. Next slide, please. For what ages are childcare needed, you can see here, it's predominantly the under 5 that childcare is needed. Next slide, please. Manageable cost range per month, 400 to 600 is the biggest preference, but then 600 to 800, which is where the Georgetown Community School currently sits at tuition cost, is what is manageable. And I want to make sure to emphasize in this question, we've said not your preferred cost, but what is manageable to your family's budget. So we're coming in between the 600 and 800s there. Next slide, please. And then just how much does the absence of childcare impact your ability to earn a living, such as saving money, paying bills, etc. And, pretty consistently at 4 and 5 for stress level impacts. Next slide, please. And then this was just to illustrate how our tourist-based economy really thrives in the summer. And that red box is the area in which there is no 5 and under childcare. So that's the end of May 31st is when the GCS program ends. And then I think August 15th, 16th, thereabout, mid-August is when the program would start up again. So you can see that coming out of the slow winter months of earning, removing families from the summer economy is going to be because of a lack of childcare is going to be very impactful to families. Next slide, please.
Leaving people with the incentive to, anyway,
Yeah,
potentially make decisions about how well their children are cared for in order to be able to work. That's the other thing.
exactly.
Having that incentive there is not good.
Right. And then I didn't have like Idaho Springs or other towns data, but I did have Georgetown data. So this is illustrating, across our community, county, and in Georgetown, it's the same thing. This is 5 years of sales tax revenue, showing that our big, coming out of the slow winter months, the summer is where families really get a chance to earn. Next slide. So share a little bit how childcare in Clear Creek County would help you and your family. And again, this doesn't like lead the respondent to say work, but everybody says it would allow me to work. So as you can see, a lot of what the childcare need is directly tied to our local economy and our local families' earning ability within our local economy. Next slide, please.
Really quick, just a really quick comment on that.
Oh, yeah.
The comment saying a lot of this is not unique but it's totally valid. Something that is unique that I haven't thought about before is It would save our kids 6 hours of car time per week.
Oh, yeah.
People that are interested in mental health, specifically mental health in Clear Creek County, should be interested in the data about correlating drive time to mental health. This is a big mental health challenge we have in our community.
I did not know that.
And I wasn't aware of, or hadn't thought about this connection. So anyway,
Yeah.
That's for both parents and children.
yeah, we got a lot of commuters. 75% of the people that have jobs in Clear Creek County are driving 6 hours a day.
I remember having tiny little kids in my home and racing. Is it having tiny little kids in my home and trying to race home through rush hour traffic from Denver every day when I had to work in Denver during a recession? And the way I walked in the door with a grimace on my face like this, as tense as I could be from fighting that traffic all the way home. And having to work to be the best person I could be when I got in the door.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and I know, so a lot of the, some families do have to commute to work and might prefer childcare closer to them. But in a lot of cases, it's that they're commuting just for the childcare. And then if there was something closer or in the county, that would definitely save their kids at least the time. So this is the proposed schedule right now. The yellow blocked out parts are when the school would be closed. This is for potential maintenance. We're still kind of coordinating with the school district board because I think there's been some turnover in the maintenance position. I'm not entirely clear, but we don't have a solid on the maintenance schedule yet. So just for planning purposes, the first 2 weeks of June would be out, and then the last 2 weeks kind of the summer semester would be blocked. The program would be closed, which leaves us with a good month and a half of school for families. That's both the toddler and the pre-K summer program. Next slide, please. So I'll just leave the considerations up. I won't read through them again because they're highlighted, and just kind of note a couple of things before I go on to the final dollar amount request. Currently, the toddler room is not, do you all have access to the spreadsheet? There was a Excel.
I see it's not a spreadsheet, it's a PDF, but
Oh, great, yeah.
I see a breakdown of
Yeah. Yeah, so currently the pre-K program at GCS is not close to reaching enrollment capacity. And that's in part due to the fact that Carlson and King Murphy both have pre-K programs. So those pre-Kers are spread out throughout the county throughout the academic year. But we anticipate that those children, those pre-K students, would come to GCS for the summer. Because again, those Carlson and King Murphy programs would not extend their pre-K programs into the summer. So we're planning on getting enrollment through that. The toddler room is at capacity, and there was an interest to enroll survey that was put out. There were only 11 respondents so far. It's been hard to kind of get people to put their hope in. But through people I've talked to and through survey respondents right now, we have about 17 children interested. And I have a feeling that once we know that we can move forward with it, it'll fill up pretty quickly. So then the next slide, please. So what we are requesting from the county is going to be about $41,000. I want to emphasize this really pays for staff. This is funding for staff for 6 staff members, two lead teachers, and then 2 assistants. And then that subtracts enrollment, keeping it at the affordable numbers we have now and not raising it. What this number also is, though, is it extends that the current GCS program is from 8 to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. This cost extends it from 8 p.m. to 4 p.m. I'm sorry, Monday through Thursday is when the school is. This extends it from 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. So this adds an extra hour each day and an extra day of the week in the summer hours for our families, especially on those Fridays when, you have people coming up from the city that are trying to get their 3-day weekends in. I feel like having Friday childcare will really help a lot of our locals. So the other costs that we do have to consider, and we're asking other entities for money as well. We're going to approach we've already approached Georgetown Board of Selectmen, talking more about using their funds from that lodging tax resource. Once we get our 501c3 status fixed up, we'll hopefully be able to approach Henderson. I don't know anything about their grant process, so I'm not the one on the front of that. But we are looking at other funding areas, and that is in part because there's going to be extra costs that we don't know about yet. And that some of those things are like, when we know about building maintenance, if the schedule can be shifted because of the building being used. Is there a cost associated with that? There has to be a nurse, but can the nurse be 1 day a week or does the nurse have to be 5 days a week? That's something we don't know. They also have to have their para cost planned for. If we get 4 part-time staff as opposed to 2 full-time staff, is there administrative costs associated with, payroll and getting them signed up and all of that stuff? Not equipment, but like curriculum tools. So that's the kind of stuff, the over this amount is the stuff that will be going to GCS or Georgetown for, hopefully Henderson for, and other funding sources. So just to emphasize again, this is to pay staff, our local community, pay them for that 8 to 4, 5 days a week, for about, I think it was about 30 days. And then also if the building maintenance schedule allows and we don't have to be closed, then the request to other entities would be to keep it open for those weeks that we don't have to close for maintenance. So the cost burden would be requested from others for that. Can I answer any questions?
No. My gut feeling has been that the GCS childcare is a real critical asset to the community. Even when the Carlson or Building 103 childcare is fully implemented. And that's because just looking at the numbers, obviously the one and the two elements to me are looking at the numbers. There's a difficulty, and then looking at the demographic of the community to have something in a population center is also really important, because there are people on the west end of the county, for example, that commute the other direction than the standard direction we usually commute from here.
Yeah.
People that work in Summit County who live in the west end of the county.
Yeah.
And I used to do that, commuting out of Empire to build homes constantly for 20 years, so I get it.
Loveland even.
Yeah, did all of that. Yeah. So anyway, so I think it's really, I think it's important I think it's incredibly important that it's a success. So just stopping there though for now. George?
Yeah, I agree. How many seats did you say you were trying to target?
The current, let's see, hold on, I can do this from my head. So the current toddler room enrollment license is for 10, and the pre-K room is, so 26 is 26 is the total, 16 is the pre-K room, 10 is the toddler room. I still haven't gotten clear answers on this, but the room capacity for those 2 rooms are 12 and 20. But the license right now is for 10 and 16. So we have our EECL meeting on Wednesday. So we're going to see too if we can find out how quickly we could expand the license to room capacity as opposed to enrollment capacity. So that would add another 6 seats.
Yeah, 6 seats, so 4 and 2, if that's the way you broke it out. So
Yeah. Well, and as far as the toddler room goes, like my daughter and a couple of her friends are old enough to move to the pre-K room for the summer program. So just because the toddler room is full now doesn't mean that it would be full there'd be room for other families to come in the summer for those younger kids.
okay.
Can you clarify first, before I just ask these questions without any facial expressions? Yes, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
I recognize you're doing this as a volunteer to meet a critical need in the community. Very grateful for your efforts. Totally support trying to get this done.
Thank you.
Just to take some tension off of that, because I'm not trying to be an
Yeah.
Who's making the ask and who's operating the program? Whose name is on the check if we do this?
Oh, that's a great question. I believe it would be GCS. So I've been working with Amanda Cooper, who's the president of the Georgetown Community School Board. They ran a deficit this year, partially because the toddler room enrollment tuition did not cover the expenses for running toddler and pre-K. And that's very, very common with childcare all over the country, is that tuition costs cannot ever meet the need to run the program. So GCS cannot spend any money if this is to move forward. They have to, they can use the building, we can use the building, and it's the GCS program, it's the ECE director there, It's the license. So GCS would oversee it. And I believe then the check would go to GCS because they have to pay like, I mean, that includes para contributions. Like they can't even make para contributions. They're so tight. So, yeah.
Yikes. Okay. And have you like identified workforce? Like, are you confident you can hire?
No, we've not yet identified workforce. And again, I think that's partially because we didn't have any guarantee to say this is going forward. So again, in talking with the school board president, Amanda Cooper, about it yesterday, we really felt that once we have an idea of being able to pay for this, we could really aggressively start recruiting and think that that would be very manageable.
Yeah. Okay. And that sounds great. And I mean, it's clear that you're building the plane as we try to land it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like that's where we're trying to meet an urgent need. Sometimes this is how it goes. Are you confident that the seats will be full? That if you get 16 seats, that the kids will?
Yeah.
And if you build it, they will come.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident. I do know in talking, I think the bigger issue is that in talking to other parents, I've talked to people that have said like, we would love to do this program, but we can't afford even 700. So the board that I'm working with, I'm hoping that we could also find resources this summer to offer scholarship slots. So
This could help on that as well. I mean, the bottom line is it would make it available.
yeah,
So it could remain full.
it could make it available. And I think that if we had the money but didn't reach the funding, didn't reach the enrollment capacity.
Might have to close early or something.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think we'll reach the enrollment capacity because when the toddler program initially started, it was kind of low on enrollment, but within like a month it filled up. And I think a lot of that is because people were kind of so unfamiliar with access to childcare and kind of what it meant in the county. But then seeing other kids and like the community it builds within the classroom and within the teachers and just having their kids be able to have engagement and enrichment while they can also work. The huge consideration for these families is the cost. But I think once people kind of get going and get used to having that as part of their budget, I think it'll fill up.
I think the approach that's more, that would make me feel warmer and fuzzier, that attracts me more, is that you look for other solutions besides altering the hours of operation or something as you go in response to that. Because when people sign up for the program, they're looking, I mean, obviously, we need certainty in our lives because we're trying to figure out how to take care of our kids. So, whatever the solutions are, if you didn't hit quite the enrollment that you wanted, if you fell a couple seats short or something like that, then if you got to make a hard decision, you have to make a hard decision. But the last resort to me is changing the hours and days of operation.
Yeah.
That's just something that you got to find. You've either got to find more money or you've got to figure out how to operate in a way that allows you to still provide service that, maybe there's one less person there working or something, but
Yeah.
okay, the number of kids, but anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
No, I appreciate that. And I agree. I think, right, adjustments can and will have to be made
Right.
as we go.
When you kind of making the agreement with the people at the beginning for what they're getting, then it's best to stick to the product that you said you were going to deliver, I think.
As long as you can. Yeah.
Agree. So, and a couple more questions. The 40K feels like sort of at least, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And like, just for the record, like people that need childcare in Georgetown and around Georgetown are worth it, right?
Yeah.
And you said that at one point that was the ask to the county. It feels like when I look at your spreadsheet, that's the total need. And so there could be a conversation between the county and Georgetown about how to collaborate to come up with that number. Is that?
Right. Well, so to the spreadsheet, right? So that ask is specifically for staffing minus tuition. And so what we anticipate happening is, like I said, there'll be kind of costs, like there needs to be a nurse, there needs to be curriculum materials there. We're going to look into, there's different food options. So food should be able to be funded, but there might have to be a small amount of money for that. And with that, I don't know if the cafeteria needs to be operational. Administrative costs for like running payroll and stuff like that, that's not factored in there. Because those are still kind of the unknowns. So there's an anticipation that there is going to be more cost associated with the program than this request. This request, again, is specifically for staffing minus the tuition. And so the hope is then to go to, so we didn't have numbers when I first went to the Georgetown Board of Selectmen, but they know that this is like, they're aware of this ask is coming. And so anything above and beyond that staffing cost, the request would be put out to Georgetown and to other entities.
So one way to look at this, you're trying to get to a 12 and 20 model. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, right. So right now we're at a 10 and
Two total
16,
seats.
I don't know what that.
So one way to look at this is,
12 toddlers to 20 pre-Kers.
Okay.
yeah, so one way to look at this is just on a rough look at the average cost. What we're being asked for is to essentially subsidize childcare at the cost of about $1,275 a year per seat. So it's almost like a $1,275 scholarship, if you will, or something like that to make it happen and keep the prices where they are in order to do that. It's like a contribution towards each one of those seats per year. And I realize it's different for a toddler than pre-K, but still it's, okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. And I also just want to emphasize too, that this is not going to be a recurring ask this is a somewhat emergency situation, and that, the GCS program opened just in the fall of last year. We kind of, nobody really had summer on their radar, and everybody wears a lot of hats. So nobody had been planning for summer really. So now we're kind of at this like last minute point where we can move forward. And so in future years, summer 2025, building 103 will be open. GCS will have like a much more established system and curriculum. But as far as like needing to support a summer childcare program, this is kind of like a Band-Aid ask. This isn't going to be a repeating request.
And to add to that, we also didn't know that toddler time wouldn't be able to operate this summer,
Oh, yeah,
right? And that's a big change. And
Yeah, it is.
Georgetown and Idaho Springs are closer than we like to think,
yeah.
right? I imagine there are people in Georgetown that are impacted that are looking for a place right now.
Mhm.
They probably just found out a couple weeks ago. So yes, I think.
And I don't even know how, I don't even know yet if they've started, how advertised the absence of toddler time this summer is yet.
Oh, well, if I knew there were some challenges and I didn't know if they had decided to give up the ghost, but.
Yeah, I think it's because since Carlson is moving, they can't have the wilderness camp in the Carlson building, so they're having it in the toddler room.
Okay. So
My understanding.
this is all really helpful. Of course, this is a work session. And so what we're trying to do is understand the ask. You do know that Clear Creek County passed a ballot measure so that lodging taxes can be used. You probably also know that no lodging tax is collected by Clear Creek County inside Georgetown.
Yes.
And so that's a conversation that we're going to need to have with Georgetown about how we think to allocate the fair allocation of obligation of these public dollars is, because the lodging tax that's generated in Georgetown is collected by Georgetown, and that should mean if it's 40%, that should mean that they've got kind of a lot of money to work with. 40% of total collections, I'm going off the top of my head, they might have around $180,000 a year to work with in revenues. And so like that's a conversation that we're going to have in Georgetown. My commitment is to have that conversation from a place of how do we get this done?
Okay.
Because I believe this is a crucial need. And I want to help this happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I'm also in agreement that the other one is a real thing. It's our intention in passing that tax. When we started that tax, it was with the idea that it would benefit the entire county, meaning in Georgetown, in Idaho Springs, and everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And a piece of that, one geographic area is taking a chunk of that and says, no, we'll take that for the same general purposes, and beyond. And so what that means is that share that comes from that community is now gone for us to be able to use it for that purpose in that community. So we have to take what we've collected in other places.
Yeah.
And dispersed it into a place that already collected the same taxes. And so it's an ongoing conversation that we don't want to have be a contentious one. And we want to make sure that we also keep making progress moving forward so that people are covered in times of needs. And as you said, this is a kind of a one-time emergency ask for this situation at this moment in time, especially because of the logistics of the movement between the two schools in Idaho Springs. It's created an additional burden. So.
And I would add too, that, you know, the child care center is in Georgetown, but the families that benefit from it are countywide.
Right.
Yeah.
This is
Right.
really important to point out.
Yeah.
It's a resource that's available to be made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor Harmon says it best in Idaho Springs, right? He says, as the mayor of Idaho Springs, I should support housing in Georgetown because we're too close not to care about each other.
Right.
Right. And I think that's the right approach to take. And obviously, like, we have to figure out how to have these, we're working together conversations at the same time we have these
Yeah.
who's contributing adequate effort conversations. Right.
Yeah.
And that's tough, but we'll have that and it'll be from a place of support.
It's my philosophy as well, exactly what Chuck said. It works best when everyone has that same philosophy. That's the only catch to it, is that you've all got to do the same thing for it to work. So,
Exactly.
When might we expect to have an answer?
Yeah, let's talk next steps and then let's try to. I think we need to ask staff to take a look at our lodging tax fund. Over a period of a couple of years, we've made some commitments, and just kind of give us a sense of what's left. So that would be helpful. I think there are some questions that need to be answered here. I would like to have more confidence in this plan than I have right now, just based on the state of the details. Questions like, do we need a nurse 1 day or 5 days? Like, there's just continued planning to do, right? So I kind of view this as a midpoint check-in.
Okay.
And I think when you'll get an answer is sometime quickly after we see kind of a full plan and we know what, does that help?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
we need to put together a list. Is that what that implies of questions that we'd like answered? Do we want
That would
to
be
be
helpful.
specific about that?
I raised them here. And yeah,
What's the deadline? What do you,
yeah, that's a great question.
Oh, yeah. Well, the program would start, I think it was so I would say probably the second week of June would be the deadline, because the school will be closed, the building will be closed those first 2 weeks of June. So if we had funding that second week of June, that would then give us the week to get staff on the payroll,
don't you need assurances? that
I mean-
Start marketing to fill those spaces, because that was one of the other unknown needs I heard was,
Got to enroll.
can we fill the seats? And the
Yeah.
answer wasn't yes, definitely we can, right? So you need time to market to get those seats filled.
yes, you're right.
Conversely, they need to know how many seats they can fill to.
Correct. So I think you need a commitment from us before the second week. of
You're
June.
absolutely right. Yeah, thank you.
So the sooner the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can make sure that, and it doesn't have to happen, it could happen right here, word of mouth, by going through that list again. What are the questions, so that they're listed down and firm, so that we're all on the same page, or it can be in a follow-up conversation that follows this. And then we should try to get those questions answered so we can, or you should try to get them answered for us so that we can then get it on the agenda as soon as possible and you've got certainty.
Yeah.
So,
And there's a general question, just like to our organization, of what does staff think? And that, like, we've got legal questions, we've got operational questions, like, there's gonna be a lot of responses to the general, what does staff think question.
Yeah.
Some of that advice might come in executive session, because we probably need legal advice about this, right? Counties are very constrained in how we can spend dollars.
Okay.
So we'll just kind of keep moving this, not kind of. We're gonna keep
Thank
moving
you.
this forward. Really appreciate your efforts as a volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just said one more thing. I think between my notes and Beth's, we can probably come up with a list of questions that.
Yeah, and I can send the questions that I wrote down.
That would be great. And then I'll, kind of start really aggressively looking for staffing. So we have committed numbers around that, and enrollment as well.
Yeah, this was some advice that was given to me. It's from somebody, I called somebody that's built childcare centers in a quick window. And one of the things that causes them to not work well is you get the money and then all of a sudden you can't hire,
Yeah,
so.
okay.
Well, no, yeah, knowing those things is important with regard to the legal question of what we can and can't spend money on. I can go back to slide 2 of the initial of the presentation. And that's, we're collecting taxes for the purpose of, one of the purposes is providing childcare. So it seems like it ought to be pretty easy to figure out how to do this, but.
Might be
I'm
more a
in-
question of how.
Yeah.
But. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Really appreciate your time. Anything else from anybody else?
Thank you, everybody, very much.
Thank you. You're the one that's
Time.
free.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next on the agenda, we are skipping, we've removed from the agenda the work discussion to discuss the county's employee performance management system. Moving on to item number 11. This is a public hearing. Consideration of approval of resolution number 26-16. Resolution to adopt the 2021 International Code Council Code Series for Clear Creek County. I believe, Peter, are you presenting on this?
Yes, more than happy to.
Well, whoever is presenting.
And it's resolution 2416. I thought you said 2616, so I just wanted to clarify that. And so 2416 and 2417, we can actually, the votes will have to be separate, but the public hearings can be combined. This is the adoption of the International Building Code, as well as the International Mechanical Code, Plumbing Code, Fuel Gas Code, and Energy Conservation Code, and amendments to those codes that staff believes are appropriate for our jurisdiction. This has actually been brought to the board a number of times in work sessions. And under Wes Fortick, the prior building official, the changes recommended by the board were also incorporated into the version that's attached to the agenda packet. Now, Wes is no longer with the county. However, our interim building official is Safe Built. But I volunteered to just present on this building code and the various changes to the residential code, building code, mechanical code, and the other codes I mentioned are all supported by our current building official, as well as our strategic and community planning division director and others in that division. So we would ask that the board allow for public hearing on the codes. And then if there is public comment rather on the codes, and if there is no public comment, then motions to approve both number 11 and 12. 12 is specific to the fees that the board had wanted to see addressed.
What I'm doing is I'm just reading down through what I see are the changes, the amendments, if you will.
Sure.
The 14, and I have not read down through those, and it won't take me but a second to scan those, just,
Okay.
and
In the meantime, I'll open it up for public comment.
Nonsense.
There is no one in the room, so if you are on Zoom, please raise your hand to make a public comment, and I'll just go ahead and hold it open for a couple of minutes.
Not seeing anybody yet, but I'll let you know.
And then Randy, if you give me the high sign, I'll close public comment whenever you're ready.
we'll give them until till you, so you're letting me cut off public comment and blaming it on me, right?
No.
I got it. Sure.
We've already satisfied our obligations.
Yeah, everything I see so far, I like. I kind of let go of that wood foundation thing. They are possible to do, but they still have inconveniences to the extent that I wouldn't recommend them.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close public comment.
I'm not there yet. I said so far. Still going through. I've only got 4.
I don't want the record to be confusing. It's for someone to think that that was a member of public commenting.
Well, you can close it anytime you want, but I'm still reading. The only thing I'll say that I've run into that I see we haven't really addressed on here, we've always been a little loose about the driveway roofing inspection is required prior to a footing inspection, which of course makes sense. One thing this is a dynamic that I was talking about with someone else just yesterday about some other proposed developments in Clear Creek County or proposed buildings that people want to put in. People can come in and get a grading permit while they're still getting a building permit or going through even planning and zoning, stuff like that. And then they can get a driveway permit and they can put in a driveway. They can even operate separately at the state and get septic, or I think we do that locally, and well permits, and start investing a lot of money in their sites only to find out that they shouldn't really get a building permit for the thing they want to build. And so often jurisdictions allow these things by giving them a grading permit, by giving them so that they can begin to dig their foundation, by giving them a driveway permit, we create an inertia where then we feel obligated to make an exception, find a way to get them their building permit, even if we have to make exceptions, because it's like, well, what are we going to do now? We're going to have to compromise. Now we've caused them to, we've allowed them to spend all this money and tear up the ground. Now we need to give them a building permit. So we make exceptions sometimes. That pressure comes on. Personally, I've always felt like, and I know we're not addressing it here, but I'd like us to talk about it for the future. I've always felt like the grading permits, other than those that you can do without even getting a permit, where you can go out and move your ground around on your property up to a certain amount of cubic yards or a certain foot of depth. But beyond that, we ought not to be having people other than a pioneer drive maybe or something like that. We ought not to be letting people dig the foundation for their home before we've even approved their building permit structurally, whether that foundation and whether that's all going to work the way it is, because we may, that you might run into a place where you made a requirement that they decide to cancel a project and then they've got a big piece of ground out there, a big hole in the ground. And I'm not suggesting that we hold anything up today based on that, but as I'm looking at this, I just realize, we still don't have anything in place that protects against that eventuality. Oftentimes jurisdictions feel the need to go ahead and approve something because they help create the scenario to begin with, allowing.
Process problem.
What's that?
That's a process issue.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it exists almost everywhere. It's a common practice to do that. But I've just watched the dynamic play out where they go, oh, we got to give them a permit now.
So my question, not knowing nearly as much about this, is this something that we have to say in our code, or is this something that staff can fix?
It's a separate thing. It wouldn't actually be in our code, but it's definitely a process question
Okay.
issue, as Brian pointed out, and we could put that, we create.
What
a
you need
process.
before you get the next step. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. What else?
That's it. I think the rest of this all looks good. I'm fine with it.
I don't have any additional questions. These have been discussed in the past here, and grateful to see that we are not going to allow wood shake roofs, no matter what the manufacturer says about their flammability, because we've got common sense here in Clear Creek County. That comment said, do I hear a motion? And do we need separate motions? Right?
Separate motions, please.
Okay, going back to the first one. Okay, I move that we approve resolution 24-16, a resolution to adopt the 2021 International Code Council Code Series for Clear Creek County with the amendments as specified in the packet.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, next motion is I move that we adopt resolution 24-17, a resolution to adopt the International Code Council ICC Code Series fee schedule.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Next is item number 13, consideration of approval of the 2024 communications plan with Megan Heiler. Are you
Hi
up there
there.
in the sky?
Can you hear me? Oh, can you guys hear me?
Wait, we can't hear you.
Oh, no.
I
Can you hear me
hear
now?
Oh, wait,
She's
hold on.
she frozen? No.
Can I hear you now?
Hi.
Yep.
Okay, great. Cool.
Verizon commercial is over.
I know, I feel like that every time. All right, so I'll keep this quick for you guys. As you all know, I presented my communications plan to you guys last month, and there were a few changes that you wanted me to make and a few additions. So I took the liberty and did that and worked with Brian. So just real quickly, I didn't prepare a PowerPoint just because you guys have already seen most of this. So I'm just going to go through some of the changes. I'm sure you've already seen them. But on page 5 in the executive summary, third paragraph from the top, I talked about the importance of public input, and why we in the communications department, and by we, I mean me, try so hard to get public input. So you can see more about that in the executive summary on page 5. And then here were the main ones. On page 8, you'll see my revamped goals. So when I first presented this, there were 3 goals. I added another one, so now there are 4 goals. The new goal was to enhance community partnerships. Details of that, and that goes more into depth on page 9, but that talks about maybe using open media together, maybe talking with Georgetown or Idaho Springs and seeing if they want to get on the community forum and drive more traffic there and split the costs and have a cost savings thing. So more of that's also on page 9. Also, George, this one was for you. Also under goal number 2, I made a sub goal about better tracking metrics and framework. More of that explanation is goal 2C. But if you look under a lot of the goals, I also, if it was applicable, I added a like metric line, and I talked about like more specifically, like here I want to increase participation in online forums by this amount, or I want this amount of engagement on a Facebook post. So I did some research to see what would be some plausible goals for a community like us, and threw those on there. And this also kind of goes into what I want to say next is I met with Civic Engage a few weeks ago, and I basically told them that I really had no way of looking at the metrics besides through like Google. And they ended up giving me access to a new way to track metrics, and I can see what pages people are looking at, what they're kind of Googling to get on there or to get on the website, how long they're spending on the website. So if you look in the appendix, I included those metrics back there, and you can also see I included the forum metrics as well. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Ready?
The only thing that, well, the first thing that jumps out to me is just a point of interest, a point of curiosity, which is on page 12, as I'm looking at it, the Clear Creek County population, the way that's shown, and that graph always makes me curious about its accuracy. And the first thing I think is that, well, everything from 2013 up through 2019 are projections as opposed to actual counts. And then there's a census in 2020. That's a reality check that brings you back to normal. So probably, but then also we know that the 2020 census is a real piece too, because how do we know the accuracy of the 2020 census during COVID, which was a real difficult thing. So I think we almost have to wait till 2030 to figure out what happened.
Honestly, yeah.
And hopefully we won't be in the middle of a pandemic at that time.
Agree. I have no questions, only compliments. Thank you for integrating those suggestions into this work. I think this is a great plan. I mean, this is just thank you. It's awesome.
Yeah, I just want you to know, I think you've outdone yourself, and Clear Creek County by accident, not accident exactly, but by your work is outdoing itself too. I can imagine plenty of counties around that don't have a plan that is this professional. I really appreciate it.
And we hear a lot in the community about improving transparency, improving public engagement. It's a huge goal. It's a constant challenge in government. From here moving forward, my answer about what I'm doing about it is, well, we've got a 49-page plan written by a really, really excellent member of our staff who is pursuing that plan and could tell you tomorrow, how are you doing on that plan, and would know. Because you've got metrics in here and everything else. So that's all from me. I don't think we need any action here, do we? You're not asking the board to adopt this, are you?
It's consideration of approval. Let's go ahead and adopt it, yeah.
You want us to adopt it?
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion? Sorry, Randy. Do you?
Yeah, it does say consideration of approval of the 2024 communications plan in the agenda. So I move that we approve and accept the 2024 communications plan done by Megan Heiler.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for your kind words and your partnership, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Item number 14, next.
Let's do it, see if she's here.
Okay.
Or is she online?
I didn't, last time I asked Megan, she was not.
We're looking for Suzanne.
Yeah.
Yes.
She
You wanna
was
take a
earlier.
Quick fire break.
You know, I think that this board could use a couple of minutes to itself anyway. We're gonna go on break.
Okay.
We will be back at prior to
Megan, I'm turning the mics off.
15.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep. We are ready to go.
I just turned up our volume so we could hear if people are talking. Okay.
Next on the agenda is consideration of approval of fire suppression ponds designation notification letter.
Yes. So in your packet, there were three items. And really what the ask is today is to approve and so for you to sign this letter. So what this is about is the program that counties and fire authorities or fire districts have to undertake if they want to use ponds in their areas for fire suppression. There are a number of things that they have to go through with the state. So the first part of that is identifying if there are in fact ponds that meet the state criteria and that the fire authority or fire district for that area are interested in. So what this letter represents is Evergreen Fire District did an assessment. Essentially, there are 3 ponds within Clear Creek County that they're looking at, and the pond names are in the letter: Aspen Ranch Pond 1, Pond 2, and Indian Creek Park Association Pond. So that's the first step. The next step is figuring out if those ponds are going to meet all the state criteria and doing what needs to be done according to the state. And so what this letter does is says to the state that Clear Creek County says, yes, we want to take a look at those ponds. Evergreen Fire is going to be doing all of the assessment work, all of the work. So really this is a administrative letter on our part to say, yes, Evergreen Fire, do what you need to do with the state to go through those steps of assessing the use of those ponds and whatever needs to come next. So it's not, it's really just approving the start. So essentially, once this letter is signed and sent to the state, Evergreen Fire, has a year to do the assessment of these 3 ponds in order to do the next step.
Awesome. I remember this going through the legislature, been involved in the conversations, sort of. I actually just sort of trying to involved in trying to funnel the conversations to the right people. Thank you for being the right
Yeah.
person. I don't have any questions about this. Randy, you?
No, I think this is, I mean, all this is doing is writing a letter confirming that we are going to meet with all criteria in evaluating these ponds, and we're going to evaluate them for that purpose.
Yes, exactly. And in the discussions with Evergreen Fire Protection District, I talked with a number of folks there. They have their plan ready, they're ready to go. They're not asking us for any, because some of the discussions ahead of time were, what does the county need to do for this? But
We don't need to do anything.
it's really kind of that right now administrative role and making sure that we're continuing to work with Evergreen Fire Protection District, which we do constantly anyway. So yeah, at this point, it's a letter to allow Evergreen Fire to start that process.
Right, we're gonna write a letter so they can do it.
Yep.
Okay,
And that's the letter that is in the packet that I would ask you to sign.
cool.
Yeah.
So therefore, so I think I'll just make a motion. I move that we approve and issue the letter for the fire suppression pond designation notification letter.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Just also, I want to note, one of the questions that was in here, that was in this process was, is this going to have any like ongoing county costs to maintain these ponds or monitor this agreement or anything? And my understanding is no.
That is my understanding as well. I can always go back and double check with Evergreen Fire, but they're at that, initial steps of looking at all this, but that is my understanding as well.
I have received assurances that they're more interested in taking on any costs than we would be.
Those have been my conversations with them as well. And I mean, fantastic partnership with them. So, but I can ask that question again.
That's not a very high bar to get over. To be more interested than we are in absorbing the cost.
Yeah, well, I don't have the money. So thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thanks.
Next on the agenda, Peter, I'm going to ask you for some support here. I've got items 15 through 18, 4 separate public hearings that I believe we can combine.
Correct.
Okay,
So I'm happy to lead that.
Okay.
For items 15, 16, and 17, those are actual ordinances. They were all read initially at the board meeting on March 19th, 2024. They were published in the paper at the board's direction. Publication was done for each of these ordinances on April 4th. I'm going to read those into the record, and then I'll address the public hearing for number 18 as well before you actually open it up for public hearing. Number 15, public hearing, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 18, an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners adopting the 2018 Uniform Fire Code and fines, fees, and charges for uniform fire code violations and inspections. Public hearing, number 16, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 10, an ordinance to repeal ordinance number 1995-5. And number 17 on the agenda, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 6A, an ordinance to repeal ordinance number 6. As I indicated, they have already been published in full in the paper, and they were set as noticed in the paper for today. Public hearing, the next public hearing, which is number 18 on the agenda, is consideration of approval of Clear Creek County Resolution 2024-23 -23, a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners consenting to the adoption of the several municipalities and the Clear Creek County Fire Authority of the Uniform Fire Code appendices in the Uniform Fire Code Standards 2018 edition as published by the International Fire Code Institute, and rescinding resolution 1999-150. So all of those relate to what we had discussed at March 19th, which was that these changes were needed in order to, one, make sure that we properly adopted the 2018 fire code and consented to the fire authority's adoption of that as well. And additionally, it cleaned up some issues relating to civil penalties due to legislation over the last 2 years. What I would recommend is that we at least open public hearing for each of the items, and then I'll do the final language that we need.
okay. We're going to open the public hearing on item number 15. This is the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 18, an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners adopting the 2018 Uniform Fire Code and fines, fees, and charges for uniform fire code violations and inspections. The hearing is open. I'm opening public comment. If you're on Zoom and you wish to make public comment.
Nothing that I'm seeing.
Seeing no public comment, we're going to close public comment. We're in deliberation. Randy, do you have any comments, questions?
Nope.
Neither do I. We had a good discussion about this in March.
Okay, I would like to note that the ordinance will be recorded once passed, and it will be published again in the Clear Creek Current and Canyon Courier with just the title, assuming there are no changes to that ordinance. I would ask that the board adopt the ordinance and make sure the entire title is read verbatim, which you've already done. So
Oh, I didn't have to read that thing.
Okay, so it's already been read. So I move that we adopt on second reading ordinance number 18 as read.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next. Now, item number 16, opening a public hearing for the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 10. I'm going to open public comment. Do we have any hands raised? If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand to make public comment.
Nothing.
Thank you, Megan. I'm going to close public comment and would love to hear a motion on ordinance number 10.
Yeah, I move that we adopt ordinance number 10, an ordinance to repeal ordinance number 1999-5.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on, item number 17. second reading and adoption of ordinance number 6A. I'm going to open up for public comment. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand. There is no one in the room.
Or on any.
Your hand raised.
You did all that.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment and would welcome a motion on this.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 6A and ordinance to repeal ordinance number 6.
Second, discussion.
Yes. Where it says repeal ordinance number 6, what's the year of that ordinance? Because the line above says 1999-5, and I just for specificity.
Sure, absolutely. I'm just gonna open it up, so I have it.
Thought it might have been part of the same, might have also been 99 since 5 and 6 kind of made sense.
Yeah, and I literally just had it open, so I apologize. 2000,
Oh, okay, well,
close. Well, 1999-5, probably, that makes sense that it would have been in June of 2000. And it
yeah,
adopted at that time the 1997 Uniform Fire Code.
okay.
Okay, any further discussion?
So if we just state, so that's number 2000-6, is that what that is? On item number 17? That's the one we're repealing?
You're repealing ordinance 6. It was ordinance 6.
Okay, it didn't have a year specification.
No. So typically speaking,
Mhm.
our ordinances are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so forth and so on. That 1995 that you saw in number 16
Mhm.
is an anomaly. No idea
Okay,
why they numbered it that way.
okay, sounds fine. All right,
Any further discussion?
no more.
Okay, thanks for checking that out. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, and as I noted, for each of those, the ordinance will become effective 30 days after that date of the date that they are actually published again. Or rather published in the Clear Creek Current and the Canyon Courier.
That just gives people 30 days to come down with pitchforks and torches and for us to reconsider.
That's
Is that
correct.
Okay.
They have torches. This will be an appropriate discussion.
Yes, that's right.
Relates to the fire code. For number 18, we just need a motion to approve that. That as it indicates, adopts. I think I already read it into the record, so.
Okay, so we're going to open the public hearing to consider approval of Clear Creek County Resolution 2024-23. I'm going to open public comment. If you're on Zoom and you've been waiting for this one to comment on, please raise your hand. We would love to hear you.
Nope, no one.
Okay. I'm going to close public comment and welcome a motion.
Yeah, I move that we approve Clear Creek County Resolution 24-23, a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners consenting to the adoption by several municipalities and the Clear Creek Fire Authority of the Uniform Code appendices and Uniform Fire Code Standards 2018.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Now we are sitting as the Emergency Services General Improvement District Board of Directors to consider the first item on this agenda, public hearing for Emergency Services General Improvement District to consider approval of the Emergency Services General Improvement District Resolution 2024-02. I believe this is a public hearing. I believe I should open it up to public comment. Actually, prior to that, any explanation from staff?
No, again, these are the cleanup, or these resolutions, excuse me, clean up essentially the prior resolutions, rescind the prior resolutions. They had address the civil penalties as necessary and take care of more of the cleanup on this whole issue.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Please raise your hand if you're on Zoom and wish to comment.
We do have one public comment. Rebecca Lloyd, I'm going to make her a panelist.
Okay, Ms. Lloyd, you have been waiting for one of these. I'm really excited that was not just a casual joke earlier. Please state your name, roughly where you live, and proceed with your comment.
Hi, good morning. Just a quick, Rebecca Lloyd, I live in Evergreen. A quick general question. I'm assuming that can I assume that the 2018 uniform code is the most recent one? There isn't earlier or later than 2018 code?
No, that's not correct. There is a 2021 code. It's the fire authority that actually adopted the codes. We are conforming as one of the entities, the ESGID, to what they adopted. They adopted that, I believe, within the last year. The 21 code is the most current as I understand it. And from what I understand, also incorporates some additional fire mitigation measures that this current code doesn't address. I am not sure if they have a 2024 code yet, but I know that they at least have the 2021.
Yeah.
But the fire authority has not adopted it.
And I believe I sit on that board, and I believe that at that time, the fire chief was not recommending moving to anything further than 2018. I believe he recommended that 2018 was adequate protection for our community. And thank you. I'm remembering this is public comment. Appreciate your public comment. Do you have any perspective to offer in the next 15 seconds or so?
No, that was just a question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna go ahead and close public comment. I don't see any other hands up. Any
No, no
questions?
one else.
No additional. Thank you. I would welcome a motion.
Yeah, I move that we approve resolution 24-02 as read.
Second, all in favor?
Just
Oh,
one
sorry,
question
discussion,
following up on Ms. Lloyd's question. So basically, based on the fire chief's recommendation when this was discussed last year, the consensus of all the members of the fire authority was to take that recommendation and roll with it and not go beyond the 2,000. So they're not adding the additional fire mitigation, which I'm assuming is a defensible space type or building material type recommendation, something to that effect. Is that right? Do you recall?
I do believe the fire authority board voted unanimously based on the fire chief's recommendation to adopt 2018. And welcome a conversation about whether we should be more up to date than that. I don't recall what Mission CIT says, but I think Mission CIT suggested we go to 2021.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
I know they did in certain areas. I just don't remember what specifically.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, as we're in the middle of all of our fire authority discussions, it's something to think about going forward. We've identified many times the reason for our fire authority. The reasons for our work right now on making our fire authority as good as it can be, collaboratively with the other jurisdictions, is because a big piece of that is a significant wildfire threat that we have in Clear Creek County. And I know I've been supportive at the state level of legislation that tries to strengthen our ability to resist ourselves against things like Marshall Fire and other fires that are actually more mountain prone than that. And so I just think it should be part of that fire authority discussion moving forward. That said, I'm fine with at least moving as far as the 18. So glad to get that far with it.
Yeah. I have a
Small
little bit
comment.
to add to the discussion. Just that we do know that the WUI code board is doing its work and within a couple of years is
Yeah.
going to change some of these rules for us.
Yeah.
No, see no further discussion?
No, I would just say that thank you for reminding me about that, because that's a reason why, at least if we get as far as 18, by the time we got as far as having a discussion about 21 locally, it might be decided for us anyway. So it may or may not be it's worth discussion while we're going forward, but we might see that happening anyway for us.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, just speaking for one voter on that board, at the time, my calculation was to move as quickly as possible to get us out of like a 2012 or 2008 code.
Yeah.
And the differences between 2018 and 2021 are smaller than the differences between 2008 and 2018. So
Yeah.
it's like, let's go. So,
It's like the building codes, right?
okay,
Okay, that's it.
hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Motion passes. Next is item 20. Still sitting as the Emergency Services and General Improvement District Board to consider approval of Clear Creek County Emergency Services General Improvement District Resolution 2024-03. Peter, could you please describe this one?
Sure, this is a resolution adopting the 2018 Uniform Fire Code and fines, fees, and charges for the uniform fire code violations and inspections. So much for my speed reading today. And essentially, this is what will replace what we just rescinded, which was 9904, and it simply adopts the fees as the improvement district.
Excellent, thank you. I am going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. If you are on Zoom and have a comment, please raise your hand.
No comments online.
I'm gonna close public comment. Any discussion? Hearing.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 24-03 as read and as described by our county attorney.
Second, discussion.
None.
I just want to note my support, and I believe this board's support for what the legislature is doing with fees. It's a big equity issue. And I agree with the legislature for what they're doing on fees. That's all for me. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We are now reconvening as the Board of County Commissioners to, we have an action session to discuss support for the 4 Points Housing Project. I want to thank you for this late agenda addition request. My intent here, the school board has a work session, has a meeting tonight. I watched their meeting from last Tuesday, and I'm aware that they've been asked to negotiate with the developer that they sold the property to about a deed restriction that was placed on a property for housing units dedicated to teachers at a certain price. I don't know precisely the details of that negotiation. And my intent isn't to know precisely the details of that negotiation. During that meeting, what I thought I heard were some questions about the developer, about the value of the project, et cetera, that I think it would be helpful for Clear Creek County to decide to express an opinion on. And I can go make public comment for myself. I also would love to go make public comment on behalf of this organization. My intent would be to, in a friendly way, make sure they know that we view this development on the football field as very important to our community. And I will share with you, because I've been the one engaged with 4 Points at various points over the last couple of years to, talk to them about what they're up to with the EPA, not what they're up to, et cetera. I find them to be good faith actors. I find them to be mission based and straight shooters, and really value their efforts to get this done. I think a less mission driven developer probably would have walked when they found out that this was a mining impacted site 2 weeks after it was closed. The fact that they didn't, I view as evidence that they are, just one piece of evidence that they are going to deliver a good product here and can be trusted. I also, the addition of, roughly speaking, 120 units in Idaho Springs will be helpful. We know we have a housing supply problem. We also know that there's limited land, and as we build land, it's incumbent on local governments to secure price commitments on those buildings that are being built. I'm really excited that conversations are proceeding along those lines with this development to help it go from okay to what I think is great. Because when we build units that we know we can control the price of for our workforce, for our people, the members of our community that are trying to raise families, that goes to great. So if you agree with that perspective, then I would ask for your permission to share that perspective in public comment to the school board.
Putting all those words together, and just reading between the lines a little, or not reading between the lines, but remembering back to a couple of the first lines. My understanding, and let me say that I completely am in support of doing what we can to help our partners get this thing across the finish line, because it's really important. And that said, I also know that some of our guardrails are that we don't presuppose to put intense pressure on another board that has the authority about what decision to make, about what decision they should make. That's their decision to make. So I want to emphasize that that's my attitude about that. So I'm perfectly happy for us to ask you to express support that we have for them, to come to a resolution on how they resolve their critical issues for being able to help that project and those developers move forward, and support that without presupposing what that final decision should be with regard to those current deed restricted units. I'd like for them to get it done in a way that they can get it done as soon as possible. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Are you
I'm
asking
not
for-
trying to ask them what their position should be in the negotiation.
That's exactly what I thought I heard you say.
Right, thank you. And what I'm trying to do is express support for the project, express that we have a positive relationship with the developer, that we think this project is good for the community, and ask them to do what they can to help this project succeed.
Yeah, whatever you do, don't let it die. That's kind of where it's let's not say whatever, but yeah.
Yeah.
We're 100% behind it, want to make it happen.
Yeah, then they can negotiate for themselves. They're smart and they've got, they've got it under control. I think that we can be helpful here. So that said, I think I have what I need. We don't need a motion or anything, right?
You do not. It is.
No, you're good.
set up for an
You're good as
action
far as
session.
I'm concerned. I'm 100% behind getting this thing done and seeing the number of deed restricted units that we or affordable units that we can do by the virtue of our own contribution as well. So
I think what I can do is say at this point, right, Peter? The board just authorized me to go and say Clear Creek County supports this housing project and has a positive perspective on the developer and
yes,
asks the
All
school
of the
board to
above.
do what they can to help this project succeed.
That is correct. You have direction from the board.
yep, absolutely. I like all that
Thank you.
and more.
Last item, work session to discuss the Clear Creek Fire Authority organizational review next steps.
Mr. Chair, your packet included a org chart of Evergreen Fire and Rescue. That had been a request of Commissioner Wood for some alternate organizational structures. I think my prediction of when this meeting was going to end was a little late today, which is probably why Aaron's not sitting here. I know Aaron was ready to discuss the South, I named it in the agenda memo, South Platte Gilcrest, I think is the name of the fire protection district that operates similar to Evergreen. He had some extensive conversations with them. Again, these were questions that Sean had specifically raised, so. I guess the other question I have for the two of you, have you been contacted by Jonathan, our facilitator?
Yes, and we're scheduled for,
Okay, good.
I think tomorrow.
All right, because the next meeting is next Thursday. Yeah, next Thursday is the next joint meeting.
It's the 25th, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see. He did call me. We did talk. Got him in there somewhere. Thought it was this week. Yes, anyway, we're scheduled to talk.
Okay. Um. This is our last opportunity to discuss as a board this conversation prior to our next interjurisdictional meeting. I believe so. A couple things I want to check in on. At one point, we had talked about seeking a contract with a polling firm and trying to come up with the right questions to ask the public about this. How is that proceeding?
We had a meeting, we have a proposal from the same firm that we used
Yep.
for the road and bridge election.
Okay.
He's just kind of waiting on us to. I mean, we could, if you want to, if you've not talked to Jonathan yet, you could let him know, I've got a proposal that I could bring to the joint meeting. It has an example of a similar survey. Of course, he's based, everything he presented to us was based on, what we provided him, right? What myself and Megan provided him. So, in terms of what the specifics might hold in terms of a survey, we don't know yet, but he has done one similar in the state already. So we could bring copies of that. We could bring copies of the newsletters / survey we put out for Road and Bridge that we did for us. So that certainly could be a topic of conversation next week.
I think it makes sense that we would do that, right? That we would put that on the agenda. I also, if Aaron has had conversations about like other operational models, and he's prepared to talk about it, I think it'd be great for him to address the group. I also think it might be great for him to. It was at the end of the meeting and he was delivering his presentation on a compressed timeline. I think what he was trying to communicate was we're getting really great medical outcomes here and we've got some anxiety about combining operations. And I would like to encourage him to, state that. But in a presentation about what he's learned about these different models that he's discovering. Does that seem
It
reasonable?
does. I would like the chance to talk to him first to make sure he thinks he can be ready for
Yeah.
that next week.
Yeah, okay. So that's not a decision, but that's just,
Yeah.
just putting that out there.
Yeah.
What else?
And I wouldn't mind the opportunity to have this alternative model conversation with Sean here also at some point, because he was the one that
Yeah,
specifically requested that, and it's both of the ones that we were prepared to talk about today are pretty much the same. Evergreen and South Platte are pretty much organized in the same way.
I mean, my perspective is that I would be fine if our first presentation was with everybody. I think we expect Sean to be there, right?
Sure, I just want to make sure that Aaron can be ready.
Yeah, I get it. I'm looking through our notes just to try to figure out. There is something I just want to mention because it's been on my head. We talked a lot about ISO in the last meeting. And the comment was that, the best strategy to get ISO scores down and save people money on their insurance is to work with the municipalities to improve their water systems. And as I was reflecting on that, I thought about the folks that we represent in this conversation that are not municipal water systems and what it would take for their ISO scores to go down. And I know, I think the answer to that, speaking generally enough to try to be right without knowing much, is that that's about being able to show that you've got a great water shuttling plan to make sure that you can have a quantity of water a distance from a water system. And so I wanted to share with this team that's a reflection I had that I think we need to bring into this conversation. To the extent ISO scores are our primary goal.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm seeing in my notes that I offered to write a letter. I had better get on that. So easy to raise your hand and a lot like that, you
No
know?
pressure from me.
Well, it's. You know what, I think I've got a lot of confidence in our facilitator and he's having a bunch of conversations. He's probably gonna have a bunch of thoughts about how to construct an agenda and we don't.
That's kind of what I
Not
think.
everybody, so.
Yeah,
That's really why I don't have a whole lot to offer because we've had we have had some constructive meetings, for people of, or I think people are trying, with various levels of success, we're all trying to have some good outcomes, to get somewhere. And we brought on a facilitator. He's had his first opportunity in his first pass going by us, and now he's getting ready to interview everybody. And I think we're going to have a pretty fresh start coming out of that. So I hesitate to presuppose exactly how that's going to tell us to talk about and exactly what to talk about. I'd like to have him bring that to us. And I don't mean I'm not trying to squelch anybody else's thoughts or about how to move forward or what we should be thinking about and throwing in there, but kind of
yeah, not feeling squelched at all, thank you.
trying to be a blank slate here.
So, okay, well, I don't think, is there anything else? Like, I think we best use this time when we talk about sort of what we need to do as a team to be prepared for the next meeting. Is there anything else along those lines?
It's coming to my mind.
I'm looking forward to my conversation with Jonathan.
Yeah.
Having him complete his same thing I just said, and having him complete his conversations with everyone else and then bringing back to us an outsider's view of, our social terrain that we're on right now.
Okay. Hearing nothing else. I think we'll move on to the agenda. That is the end of our public agenda. We do have 2 executive sessions. Peter? Oh, sorry. I moved the board into executive session for the following purposes.
Pursuant to CRS 24/6 for the county attorney to meet with the Board of County Commissioners for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing negotiating strategy, or instructing negotiators with regard to a proposed tower space license agreement with Clear Creek Broadband. Pursuant to CRS 24/6 4024B and E for the county attorney to meet with the Board of County Commissioners for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions pertaining to county participation in workforce housing development and determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators with regard to that participation.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The board will now move into executive session where no decisions will be made and no
Minutes will be taken.
minutes will be taken. I knew there was a second. I'm out of practice.
Has
It's been a
been.
couple of years.
Yeah.
There's nothing else on the agenda, but this Zoom meeting will stay open. We will come to immediately adjourn and not discuss anything else.
One more things to do thing. These are the signatures. These are the signatures that require only the chair.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure whether we're gonna have George sign these today or wait for Sean to sign them. And then these are the ones that all 3 of us need to sign.
Okay.
So the ones inside there, all of us sign, and these are for however those get handled.
Don't I mean?
He is not chair. he signs as Commissioner Marlin. If the chair's not here,
That he can authorize Beth to sign for him.
yeah. Yeah, because of
Okay.
what was Randy was talking about, which requires specific chair approval.
Or should we just like make a motion to make me the chair? And nope, because the agenda is over.
Agenda's over and
Not on the agenda.
the,
Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna sign these and then we're gonna get over there.
Okay.
Is it time to turn off the
Yes.
mic here? Is it time to turn off? the mic
Yes.
Here, I think so.
Megan, are you listening? Can you give us our cameras, please?
So we could take these over and just slip a couple more things in there.
Gentlemen, we,
Well, Beth will
the
probably
cameras are
stamp
on,
this.
the microphones are on. The board has concluded its executive session. No written minutes were kept. No
Decisions were made.
decisions were made. And we are adjourned for the day. Thank you.